This track is called Nexus by Cambrid. And I had to refresh the Twitch page because Flash crashed. And the chat's not working. Sorry. I'll spam the chat with the link again. Okay. So let's do this again. This is Cambrid Nexus. Okay, so that whole track was very distorty, very clipping, very that kind of business. The white noise was way too low frequency, and it was loud as hell. There was just too much mids going on in there in the white noise, and it just clouded everything and didn't really work out very well. The arrangement was super duper random, and didn't necessarily work, and the flow just wasn't very flowy. The drop dispersal was a little interesting. The sounds themselves sound very kind of preset-y. I don't really know what they are, but it's kind of how they sound to me, just because of the way that they mix. The mix in general was not super great. Focus on that kind of stuff would be pretty neat. The sound design is passable, just fine. You can make a decent track out of that kind of stuff, but it's just the mix with it is a little bad. The very first hit in the entire track distorted, so that was a good indication of where things were going. What the hell else? I was gonna say, the arrangement was weird. Oh yeah, there wasn't really much of a sub presence during the bass parts, in the drops, the very massive sounding basses played. There seemed to be some, but then like immediately afterwards, where it played like the melody happiness thing, there just wasn't bass. And even during the parts that don't have actual like super basses in it, there should be bass. Once it hits, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's about it. I think that's about it for that track. Someone in the chat asked if I voted for the D&B award, and no, I did not know what that is. All right. Broly, you. Pre-master. There we go. King. That was me, sorry. this is very. I mean, when it actually started happening, it was a very nice, minimal, sort of housey feeling, neat track. Worked out pretty good. The 2-minute intro, like it wasn't actually that 2-minute intro, but it was a long intro of like not a thing happening. And while that's valuable for like, DJ mixes where DJs want to blend housey stuff in, I noticed a lot of demos for DJ equipment, like the CDJs and like a deck or something, and like native instrument stuff or whatever, tends to be house stuff. And I understand because it's particularly easy to mix house, just given by the way that it works. And it means that having like really long, really sort of sparse DJ intros makes a lot of sense. However, just for actual listening, it's just ultra boring. Ultra boring. What people do, at least that I've observed, is that they do, they have a DJ edit, and then they have the original mix, that kind of thing. And like, yeah, the way that I've always felt about that kind of stuff is that if you ever feel the need that when you're showing someone a track to tell them, oh, you can just skip this part, then that part shouldn't be in the song. There should not be a part in your song that they could just skip, and the song will be fine without. That's kind of how I feel about that kind of thing. For preview purposes, obviously, I can see that there's a reason for that. You can fix it. I think you can do it later. I understand it's a pre-master, that kind of thing, but intro like that, that's so well with me. The snares and like the high frequency percussion were particularly piercing. Just kind of lean back on that a bit in your mastering. The vocals were fun, I guess. Sometimes they got kind of weird, just a little bit, but I guess it wasn't bad. It was just weird, that sort of thing. All right, let's see what we got. I'm gonna post a link to the demo drop, even though that the link is in the page already. DZJ Nirvana. some guys in the chat I agree with in the sense that there were too many build-ups in that track. There was a lot. Looking at the waveform, it looks as though there were 3 before the drop, not counting the actual intro, which was kind of interesting. The mix was just a little bit too compressed, a little over compressed. You can kind of tell when everything, like when the drums aren't playing and it's just melodic content and it feels a little warbly. That's kind of what over compressed sounds like. The melody and all that was fine. It's just that like the choice of instrument you decided to use for your lead instrument with the upturned laser, playing that all way too many, like, you know, just do with like the melody kind of, it was a little weird because it's a little too pitchy to be doing something like that. Like a version of it with a faster rise might have worked out better, just in my own opinion. Lots of like just way too much white noise for my tastes. The percussion was too high frequency in general. Sometimes the progression felt like certain chords in the progression didn't necessarily work, but it wasn't so bad that I can even remember when or what. But yeah, overall, reasonable track. Just work on the mix and that kind of thing. Also separate step. Refreshing the page so I can see what there is. Maverick coin magnet. That's all there was. I will say one thing. Most coins are not magnetic. But that was pretty neat. That was pretty good. It's full of a nice like leady jam, which is cool. Like the very sort of like disco-y groove and like just sort of synth pop stuff going on. That was pretty cool. I guess finish it. Finish him. TBA. It appears to be at minus 75 dB. I never really subscribed to the whole like work at your track at like minus 6 dB kind of thing, but that was like really quiet. And also hardstyle, which was interesting. Nothing really wrong with that. I mean, I couldn't tell anything really wrong with the mix because it was so quiet. So like literally everything is too quiet. And I understand that it's pre-master, that kind of thing. The progression is okay. Yeah, I guess. turn it up. I mean, I know why you're doing that, but still, I make fun of the process. She in the fog. And that's it. That was a neat little jam there. Like I'd recommend laying off on the massive presets a bit. In general, I don't really have an issue with it, since I mean, at the end of the day, if your goal is to kind of show tracks to your average listeners have no idea what massive presets are. Some of them might just because of how much we talk about it, but most of them don't. So it's pretty. I mean, if it's acceptable at like the highest level of professionalism, where trailer makers for blockbuster Hollywood movies are using massive presets, like 2004 factory massive presets, then I really can't expect you to be holding you at a higher standard. But for my own personal satisfaction, I recommend not doing that. The groove was neat. The mix was pretty okay, except for the really highs were like pretty high. Like we're talking like 10 to 15K range was just too much. And beyond that was pretty cool. We make a neat track, make a neat little chiller business. Okay. Something else. Winter Song Whip. So that's actually kind of funny. What you did at the end there with the high passing should have been what you did right before the drop instead of what you did do, which was. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is, well, two things. One, they have this big, nice sub, and then you proceed to have no sub afterwards, which is a little bit jarring. The other thing is that having that much base force right before, I mean, I actually don't know if that was the drop, but you know what I mean? Before, the part a bit with drums and whatever. Like, that, it serves to kind of, it makes the impact a lot less impactful. And you do the high passing thing, that takes away the bass and it gets everyone in, like, it trains the ears to focus on the high frequencies. And when the lows come back in, it makes everything feel that much more present, the whole deal. The the main bits were cool. Sometimes I felt like there was a bit too much going on, and like the stereo image, I almost said stereo picture. The stereo image was a bit weird. Like there were things that kind of stayed on one side or the other. There were different things, not necessarily even things, but after a while, I got kind of used to it, and it wasn't really a problem. But at the beginning, there it was a little bit jarring, and I might turn some people off listening to that. What else? The mix, I mean, separate subs, please. I felt there was just a little too much going on in the main bits. The main bits also kind of repeated a lot, although the progression was really cool. I did like the actual like movement. It was neat. So overall, decent job. And immediately, if you, as you say, you're 3 hours into it. So I mean, continue, and good things will come. Drum step, because why not, is the title of this track. not much of an ending. I thought the intro was really cool with the modulating the glide time on the lead synth. That was a neat touch. Had in the drop, you had a separate sub, so good job with that. That's what it sounds like. We have a separate sub. High passing everything to 300 hertz was a bit much, and it made the basses kind of lose a lot of definition, and it just kind of sounds a lot of crushy noise, as opposed to like actual sort of growly bass stuff. And while it did serve to make the snare sound really snappy, not to have anything around those particular frequencies, it's still, those frequencies are necessary. So that was my primary complaint with that track. The drum and bass section was cool. I think that maybe the 6/8 time signature bits could have been used a bit more sparingly. Maybe at the end of the 8-bar bit. Or the 16 bar, but however long that section was, that was in double time. That works out. Speaking of subs, if you're curious as to the benefits of subscribing to the Twitch channel, if you've never heard me talk about this yet, one of the things is that when I'm doing these things to reviewers, track reviews, I give you preferential treatment. Provided you actually tell me that you actually subbed and that you are you sent me a track, because I actually, for example, Mr. Duffman, the Duffman here, who is subscribed, sent me a track, and I didn't know it was from him because I didn't until I played it, because there was no real like message, that kind of thing. Okay. Syntax error level 3. really not a fan of that white noise, just in general. I understand why people use it, but pretty much the only time where I find it acceptably used is almost when I can't tell it was, and that was very clearly used. Um, this one had a lot of like level issues actually. Like some of the instruments like popped out from a lot of the others. It didn't sound like they were really on top of things. Like a lot of the leads, a lot of the hats, they kind of jumped out and as like not being within the mix, but as being like over it, and it kind of felt a little weird. Overall, that was a pretty common sort of issue. Just a lot of stuff is like the song didn't really feel glued together, that kind of thing. EQ wise, it's way too much presence on the high frequencies. Seems to be a theme today. Yeah, pig noise. I use white noise all the time, says the chat. I know that you do. The melody and the progression were okay. A bit busy, like we're really busy, but I understand that's kind of the nature of the particular genre that it inhabits, so that's fine. Just the mix. The Cry of a Dying Transformer. It's the title of this track. Oh, hey, I broke 2,000 Twitch followers. That's cool. So were the basses in the drop in a different time signature? It sounded. I mean, I counted it out, and it was like 11/4. It was a little interesting. Way too much compression, especially during the rise to the drop. It's kind of obvious. with that regard. The melody was also seemed purposefully off key. It sounded an awful lot like the chords and the bass were in different kinds of minor or even major. And as for the drums, this is what happens when I think people like mix the stuff a little too well. And what I mean by that is that it's way too well mixed together before their master compression. And this is what I talk about when I talk about mastering all the time, is that the drums need to be a lot louder than everything else in your pre-master. Because they're not going to be louder than everything else. Like they're gonna be level with the rest of the stuff. Everything gets compressed together, but they need to be so much higher so that when they are compressed together, that things are disrupted in such a way that it makes them snap and feel hit harder, that kind of thing. That stuff. I'd recommend listening to tracks in the genre of whatever this was supposed to be, so that you can sort of compare notes and sort of feels found in your track versus their reference track. And you'll see what I mean when I say that kind of thing. The different time signature bass was a cool idea, though. What else we got? Refresh. Future Garage Whip. Garage. Suddenly Neuro. cool. Don't have a huge amount of complaint about it. The tooth, just if I don't know what that was, but the beat was nice. The flow was good, nice and chill. I dug it a lot. The only thing is that just because I'm obviously for super obviously I'm an FL user. So whenever I hear stock FL samples, I just kind of go a little bit. But that's only a problem that like people like me are going to have, which much like the preset complaint, we are a very niche group, and we're not really representative of the listener market. So you shouldn't worry too much about it. It's just that like when you saw my face go, and during the thing, that's why I did that. That's pretty good. It had a good groove. I did like that groove. Since we're in the mood, let's go listen to this. Netrom chill shit. Okay. I guess I could give go somewhere. I like the mix. Like, it's not really my genre. It's a little too happy for my taste, but like the kick was nice and snappy. That was pretty good. And I can actually notice in the waveform that's presented on Demo Drop that the kick is considerably louder than everything else. So that's how you know. That's how you know. I could be something. Could probably use some kind of vocally kind of stylings on it. Would probably be cool. I would throw a Reese in there, but that's because I'm me. So I will not necessarily say much about that. Refresh the page. Doomsday Whip. really not my style, but from what I understand of the style, that's pretty good. I was surprised by the sudden orchestro intra is what I said. What I meant to say was orchestra intro, and that was cool. It was of decent quality, and I liked the little Doomsday bit right before the drop, but then the drop was super boring to me. But like I said, I'm not into that style, and from what I understand the style, everyone who is in the style totally will be into that. So, good job, good job. I can objectively say that was a good job, even if I don't like it. Unnamed, unfinished drum step track. That's like eyeballs in the spectrum. That was like the worst snare sample I've heard in a while. And that's saying something. That was pretty bad. Like the kick drum was satisfactory. It could have lived. I could have lived. The snare, not so much. The bass itself was also felt very kind of like papery and like rubby in the wrong way. Wasn't really into that. I could have used more mids. You could have if you honestly if you lowered the notching a bit, like in frequency wise, it could have probably would have worked a little bit better. O stands for Oreos, says the chat. Also, separate sub was good. Separate sub, important. Golden flame, never fall.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be...
My God.
unnatural.
Flawless victory. Just beat Port 100 with that. And yeah, number 1. Full chart. Done. There are no words. And here's something else that just says, there's another one, someone who did the Imperial March apparently. Pretty sure, I really hope I don't get content ID for that. I'm not going to play the other one though. You make me feel like I don't know what is it. That symbol. That was fun. That sounds to me like someone who was trying to recreate a lot of what old school drum and bass sounded like without really listening to it. What I mean by that is not necessarily that you just sort of didn't listen to any of it ever, but that you didn't really listen to it analytically. You didn't try to like identify what individually was going on in each layer of each part of the song or whatever. Each kind of just like, there's a beat here, there's a vocal there, there's a bass going on, random stuff, and it switches around, and it's cool. That's what's going on. And like, that's kind of what you kind of went with and made this track. The concept is okay. Like, the track's idea and, like, the build of it is all right. It's just that, like, all of the elements individually didn't work together in the way that they do. And also there's a lot of stuff missing, like bass and kicks that have bass and snares that have any kind of punch and mixing at all, that kind of thing. I mean, if you listen to old enough drum and bass, eventually you will find something that sounds like that. But honestly, that's not really an enviable time, I don't think. Especially when all the people who made that kind of drum and bass don't make it anymore. They all make it something that sounds the same, but it sounds a whole hell of a lot better because they use modern mixing and production techniques. So that. The artist name on this is PLK4 or PIK4? PLK4 probably. All right. Refresh. Ha. Okay, here is a Jen track. Or I don't know how to pronounce this. Jen with its accent, whatever. This is the guy that made Floor Step, if you remember from the mix, and also that really dope chill track that I played a couple times before. And that's it for now, for that guy, for that track. This track is very interesting. It's got a lot of weird stuff going on, weird experimental kind of just weirdness happening, and I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. I have a feeling someone like Billane would like this track a lot. Billane. The very beginning, the first hi hat that showed up was way too sharp. Like I'm listening at like 3% volume, and if it feels too sharp at my level, that's gonna kill people. But it kind of mellowed out when the rest of the stuff got in. I am particularly impressed by just sort of like the sample-esque editing that a lot of the things had, and it all blended very well, as tracks from this individual generally do. Indeed. So that was a good time. That last drop was kind of cool, though, I have to say. It was a very interesting direction to go in. Yeah. Refresh. MBS wobble sounds. Reminds me of something that the group or guy Bitstream Dream would do. If you've never heard of them or him, or her for that matter, they did the soundtrack to the first Full Auto on the Xbox, and there was a lot of some of them that were very, very like chilled, kind of like breakbeat stuff, which I like a lot. It was pretty cool. The random sounds were very random, and they kind of took you out of the flow a little bit. Especially with the panning and the delay and the anchor and that kind of stuff. So I don't know what to replace those elements with, but like they didn't really fit very well with the rest of what was happening. So like that worked out pretty good. And notice that there was a sub. I like subs. Okay, let's find some more. VSOC, Warlock, Wirelock. So my principal complaint with this track is that, along with the fact that you had a separate sub, which is very nice, it appears as though it wasn't sidechained at all. So whenever the kick was playing with the sub, or at least not sidechained enough, it was drowned out pretty heavily, and the impact was not wonderful. And then the snare had no impact at all. It just flowed along, and didn't particularly have much impact on the thing and that was happening, which was the sound and the song behind it. The song itself was alright. I mean, it's not necessarily a style I listen to, but it's, from what I've heard of it, seems pretty reasonable. Someone in the chat mentioned that it didn't feel metallic-y enough, like metallic kind of feel, and I can kind of see where that impetus comes from in terms of feeling that, just because that's sort of how the genre goes. But yeah. The style was interesting. It's kind of like a weird merging of like rhythm and trap. Kind of dug it a little bit, actually. But yeah, in the future, work on the side chaining and the snappiness of things. That's what I think. That's how I feel about that. New glitch hop try. All right. I can kind of see where that's going. My principal complaint about this at the moment is that, beyond just mixing nails and whatever, the melodic component and the drop component seemingly have nothing to do with each other. And, I mean, it's an okay contrast. It's okay to have contrast, like, and that sort of thing. But, like, sort of fitting them together in some way will help everything work out better. Just in my own experience. This is reminding me of, I told a story before about how back when I first started producing music, I wasn't super familiar with, like, I had just discovered the genre and the entire genre of music, of electronically produced music in general, and producing music more or less at the same time. So as much as I was learning how to make the stuff, I was also learning how even to listen to it, like what it even sounds like, that kind of thing. And I got introduced to DJ mixes, which I had absolutely never listened to before, and I was actually really confused. But like what ended up happening is that I would try and produce music that reminded me of the tracks on the DJ mixes, and part of the thing that reminded me about it is that they would mix one song into another, so it would be as if part of the song suddenly became a completely different part of the song, but they were still kind of mixed in some way because the DJs mixed them. So that's kind of where my impulse to do that would come from. And not only that, but it's also in the genres of like the older school drum and bass, where every like other bar would have a new beat, a new break, a new big bass, that kind of thing. So like that's kind of what this reminds me of, being like, oh cool, the drop and the intro just had nothing to do with, nothing really related to each other at all. Because actually, wait, it's because they were sourced from different songs, and I did that because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Um, I don't particularly think that, especially if you're, here, you had that same excuse. Um, but I mean, if that's what you like to do, then by all means do it. But that's what it feels to me that happened. Blue Gent. That's pretty neat. Um, the ending kind of like the second half of this whole thing kind of came together a little bit better than the first half did. Like it felt like this like the first half was trying to be a little bit too genty, and then the last half just kind of went straight into like Doom Riders kind of stoner metal territory, which worked out a lot better especially for the kind of mix you have going on here. The mix is not really conducive to real sharp technical stuff like the genty kind of material. It's very bass heavy, bottom heavy, fuzzy kind of thing, and that's more of the stoner metal kind of stuff. The mix made a lot more sense when you started doing that than it did earlier. I think you were doing bass chords, and like I don't recommend doing that just from a mixing standpoint. But I mean, if you feel like doing it, then it's nothing I could do will stop you. So yes, reasonable track was reasonable. I mean, the mix was very cloudy and compressy kind of feeling. I also felt like a lot of things had too much bass going on in there. Like mixing metal is a bit different from mixing EDM, just because oftentimes my complaint about EDM is that people don't have a separate sub in there going on, that kind of stuff. But like in metal, there's no sub. Bass guitars don't really have a lot of sub presence. It has a lot of first and second harmonic presence, but not a lot of sub presence. And as a result of how brains hearing the first and second harmonic and other harmonics involved, we kind of fill in there being bass. And I mean, this gives us room to fill the low end with just a billion kick drums. Like that's what the etymology of that particular design. So what ends up happening is that like you have to kind of mix the guitar and the bass guitar to fit together in certain ways where they're not really conflicting a lot of frequencies. Because we have the same problem that EDM has, where we don't want to have a whole lot of stuff in the low end playing together. Like we want to have the bass and we want to have the kick pretty much alone. In this case, we pretty much have the kick alone, and then we want to have like this kind of like the low mid range be the bass alone, and then everything above that be the guitar, and then the drums and the hats and that kind of thing, and vocals when there's vocals, that sort of stuff. Metal is a much more is pretty much one of the remaining genres of music that's still popular that benefits from traditional mixing methods, with like no compression, just EQing, just leveling, mixing, pre-masters, and then mastering it. Like that still works for that kind of thing. Blues gent, I get it now. See on here it's just called Blue Gent. I'm like Blue Gent. Yeah. So it's Blues Gent. Then I'm starting to see your point there. See where you're going with that. Like, one thing I've encountered a lot in recording metal bands is that bassists like there's this like stereotype about bassists and musicians in general, where everyone's just kind of like, oh yeah, make the guitars louder and they're the guitar player, make the drums louder and they're the drummer, make the bass louder and they're the bassist. Bassists like have this special need to hear themselves be really loud, and it's part of the reason why they play bass, because bass requires a huge amount of amplification to be heard and felt and that kind of thing. And when you play it live, it's really cool to stand in front of your 8x10 cab and get blown away by the low end. Problem with that is that the bass guitar, in any kind of metal, a bass guitar being audible does not necessarily mean that the bass is audible. Like, my favorite bass tones are ones that have a lot of high mids. They have a lot of twang and sort of clang and that kind of thing. And like that, like I said about our brains, like if you play a low note, you play a bass note, like any sound, like a saw wave or something, right? And you high pass it up halfway, and you only hear like the top 100 harmonics. You can hear that, and you can still discern that it's a bass note. That is the proper register that it's in, even though you can't hear the lower harmonics. And this is a product of just particularly how the higher harmonics behave, that we hear. We hear its behavior, and we say, okay, that's a low note kind of thing, even though we're not actually hearing any bass. And that's also part of, like, if our brain hears enough harmonic content that it can extrapolate and even reproduce the sub in our own minds. And it becomes this weird psychoacoustic stuff that I'm not 100% sure about. But, like, point being, making the bass more audible and making it more present in a track has almost nothing to do with pumping up the low end. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with sort of the mids and the highs, how they behave with everything else. But metal still has the same problem that just about every other kind of music does, where when you have too much low end, it screws with your headroom and makes the mix muddy and that kind of thing. That's always going to be a thing. The other thing is that, like, a lot of bands tend to have the bass guitar and the guitarist playing the same thing, and other than sort of just congruency and the bass is not being very present, from a mix standpoint, that makes it really, really easy to make the mix work, because this means that you can make the bass guitar and the guitar, you can essentially treat them as a single instrument, and you can mix them as such. And then when bassists get kind of artsy and they start doing different things, that kind of throws the entire mix out of whack, because if they're not playing the same note, that means the harmonics are going to interfere weirdly, and then it's going to be kind of a weird deal. Which is not to say you can't do that, and not to say that it can't be mixed like that, because obviously it has been in the past. But it does mean that you can't mix it in a way to make it go as hard as a band with a bass that's following a guitar can. So you gotta have that give and take in that regard. Refresh, spamming the chat with the link. Nami Moon. Track was 2 minutes and 20 seconds long, and I don't think it was a whip. I think that was actually just how long that track was designed to be. A little bit weird. So yeah, there's that massive e-business going on again, which is not bad. It's just not very exciting to me. The mix was very compressy and could use some work with that. I recommend tweaking your release time on whatever compressor you're using so you get a nice little sweet spot. The high-pitched thing that shows up every once in a while was really jarring and really loud, and it doesn't need to be that loud. And, like, actually loud, because, again, turned down really low, still loud, gotta be, like, bad for lots of people. So, either, like, I mean, turn that down, or, like, pitch it down a bit, because it's a bit, I mean, it's just super duper loud. Here's the thing about high frequencies. High frequencies do not require as much power to sound as loud as lower frequencies. This is why, whenever you look at, an analyzer like Voxengo Span or Ableton's sort of line graph thing, that if in a supposedly even mix, what you'll see is that the low end, there's like this ramp, where the low end is much more up, and loud and level, the high end not so much. Even though it sounds relatively even to you, this is because higher frequencies do not require as much power as lower frequencies to sound as loud. It might actually be objectively not as loud, levels-wise, but our ears still interpret it as being about as loud as lower frequencies through the air. So the reason why this is true, and the reason why this is important, is because a lot of people tend to remember aspects of, this is again another analytical listening thing, about how if you don't like really pay attention to what you're listening to as opposed to just kind of rocking with it and feeling cool about it, and then later you try to make something like what you've listened to and you're relying on your memory of what you heard, you are going to be focusing more about how that track made you feel more than what that track actually was doing. And you might be thinking, well, isn't that what you want to do? Isn't that, you want to elicit emotions in the tracks, and you want to go with your gut and your feelings and all that kind of stuff. And you do. The thing is, though, is that so did the person who made that track originally, which meant that they accomplished making you feel a certain way by doing what they did technically in that track. So if you want to do something that feels the same way, then you have to go about it more or less the same way that they did. And this is important because what ends up happening is that if you only listen to it, if you try to recreate a track, but by making it sound the way that the other track made you feel, chances are you're gonna do stuff like remember that, oh man, the high end and that really high frequency was really piercing and present and loud and huge and big and all these things, and you're gonna translate that into pumping it up really hard. And that's not what they did, because they didn't need to. Because higher frequency sounds that requires much power, as low frequency sounds that sound that's powerful. And essentially what this means is that, like, you can turn the stuff down and we'll still hear it. Like, you know, when the white noise is another complaint that I have about this kind of thing. You put white noise in the high frequency of the spectrum to fill out the track, and it works very well for what it does. But if you turn it up too much, it becomes too present, it sounds very obviously not related to anything in the track because it's noise, it's its job. But if you turn it down far enough, like it's like almost like the level is almost like visibly gone, we can still hear it. We still detect it. And the benefit of doing this is that we can have a lot of high frequency things that are turned down pretty loudly, turned down a lot, and then we can pile a whole lot of it and not pile it all on and not worry a huge amount about the headroom. So for like the really high frequency piercing basses, like the one that was present in this press track, you can turn that down and it will still sound pretty loud, and you really won't have to worry about it. So that whole spiel was my recommendation about that track, and also for everybody who does anything similar. Okay. We got about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to do some announcements because actually some cool things are going to happen. I recently accepted a job to score a web series that a friend of mine made. I'm doing it for free because I like my friend, and I like the story, and it's cool, and it's gonna be fun. And I was talking to them about like would it be okay if I streamed doing the score for the movie and the TV show, and they said that, I mean, they like the idea, but they don't want to, like, you know, give away a whole swath of things. But they agreed to let me do certain scenes, so I could actually work on individual particular moments that they approve ahead of time live on the stream. So you get to see me doing scoring using FL Studio, and it can work. You'll see that it works. It's not going to work as well as pretty much any other DAW, but because I don't want to work in any other DAW, I'm going to be doing it in FL using the FL Video Player. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Also, pretty soon I'll be starting up doing the making ofs for tracks on the R is Silent, which is my new EP, which came out last week. I'll be doing that, and I'll be doing that during the regular streaming time because it's going to be a lot of tutorials. There's going to be 3 videos for each track that hopefully once I get started, I can just keep going until I'm done with it. That's the plan anyway. But I mean, it wouldn't work out so well for last time either, but hopefully this time it will. What else? As usual, if you want to submit a track for the Friday live mix, which again will happen again this Friday, make sure that it's properly titled, has your name in it, has the track name in it, clearly defined. And the key and BPM will be nice. It would be nice. It'd be a good time. And if you used ID3 tags to change all of that, you could put like your SoundCloud or something in the comments, just so I know I can link to that on the track list when I put it up on YouTube. So someone just talked about the FL Video Player, and I don't actually think they're updating the video player. I hope they are, but that'd be great. The thing about the video player is what happens sometimes is that if you scan the song and you start at a certain point, it won't be in time. But then if you stop it at that point and start it again at that point, it will be in time. I've scored things before using FL, so like I'm familiar with its failures. It's really annoying that it pretty much takes no video format that anyone uses anymore. So I had to convert the video to be usable, which is obnoxious. But yeah, how do I even know what song the key is in? You made it, didn't you? Kind of impressive that you can make a song without knowing what key it's in. Yeah. Trying to think if I'm missing anything. I don't remember. Cool. Well, thanks for sending me in your tracks today. I hope that my advice was usable. Except for that guy that sent in the Imperial March. Obviously, I'm not going to do much of that. People in chat are having fun with that question about the key. Cool. I guess I'm just going to end this here. I'm going to put, if you missed, what about songs with major or minor thirds? What is that? It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I don't need to know if it's major or minor. I just need to know what the root note is, honestly. I don't particularly care. I mean, I probably should care, but I don't. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah, the recording of this video, it's going to be on Twitch. It always is. Twitch archives everything, but I'm also going to put this one on YouTube, so if you missed actually, I have done a review for it, then this one, I'll do that one. I'll do that for. I'll do that. It'll be good. It'll be sweet. That's true. One of the persons that I reviewed earlier said that the only thing I complained about was DJ intros. And yeah, that was true. I had to do that. How do I name my track and name and drag? How do I get my name and track name to show up when I send you a track? Presumably by putting it in the title of the file. Just saying. A lot of the naming problems I had with the last mix were from how I tried to handle downloading it from Demo Drop, and Demo Drop screwed the hell out of a lot of those names. But if I pay attention to what I'm doing and I'm more